大家好，欢迎收看《旁观华尔街视角》。今天星期二，专门追踪芝加哥比特币期货价格的这个指数 ETF 基金在纽约证券交易所正式开始交易了，价格还算是比较稳定。那么开盘是40多美元，收盘呢，价格是41块9毛4收盘。我们今天呢就请米少施耐德，他是对期货非常有经验，而且他是非常专业的技术图形分析师，让他来帮我们分析一下他怎么来看待这个比特币期货指数目前推出它的利多与利空，而且它的组成以及它的一些背景，进行一个简单的分析。
Just to give a little bit of history here, a couple of weeks ago, the SEC, Gensler in particular, and Jerome Powell from the Fed both stated that they felt that the space needed regulation in terms of the cryptocurrency space, but they essentially also said that they wouldn't stop the progress, which means they kind of green-lighted it. So it's not a big surprise to find out right on the heels of that comes up with this ProShares ETF to trade futures through BITO. So the disadvantage of that is that it trades not the spot month of future, but it trades one of the back months. You know, in futures, like when we used to trade oil, you had the spot month, whatever the current month was, and then you had the months thereafter. So you could be trading, if we're in October, you could be trading November futures, December, January, etc. And then there were relationships with that, which we're not going to get into, but they call contango is one of the words to use. So what this BITO essentially, once the contract to go one of the further out months in a commodity, it expires. And when it expires, you have to liquidate or roll into the next month. So some are saying that that's a disadvantage because it basically sort of stops and starts again, which is why we have Valkyrie now coming out with another ETF. That's going to go live on Wednesday. That's going to be BTFD. And Grayscale, which is the over-the-counter GBTC ETF, that's also now talking about doing a spots futures. The advantage is, of course, that it now opens up the ability for people to trade with SEC blessing an ETF that does give you exposure to Bitcoin.
那我又问了他一个问题，这个问题可能对于专业人来说是有点傻。不过我觉得大多数投资人可能会有同样的一个感觉的问题，就是说对于任何一个期货合约，大家要估计它的价格走向的话，基本上还是有一定的基本面的根据，比如说石油、黄金、大豆以及木材等等，它们都是有宏观经济环境的影响。比如说是不是有通胀，大家就会估计黄金价格如何。那么石油和铜材还有粮食都是根据经济周期的状况、天气的状况以及市场供求的状况来估计它的价格的浮动。比特币到底有什么样的一个基本面呢？我们都知道，摩根大通总裁吉米·戴蒙还说，比特币实际上就是完全没有价值的一个大泡沫。像这样的一个产品，我们以什么样的逻辑来估计它的价格的走向呢？了解这一点，可能对您今后判断是不是要参与投资有一定的帮助。
Well, I think all futures have risk, and fundamentals can change on a dime. In terms of Bitcoin, there are fundamentals because obviously there's adoption more and more. And then you have sort of ancillary type of influences, like, for example, interactive brokers, which are now allowing registered investment advisories to have a part of their portfolio in cryptocurrency. And then, of course, there's the whole mining fundamental, which has now been taken from China and starting to mine more in the United States. So there are influences. In terms of Bitcoin itself, it is a store of value. But yes, does it look different? It's mined. There is definitely a sense of scarcity there in terms of how much is mined. It's not mined, though, with Mother Nature, and although it is in a sense, because it does have a carbon footprint. So it's totally different animal in a sense. But the thing I really want to focus on the most is that with some price history, it's very technical. And I think that's the biggest thing that people have going for it if they take a little bit of time to try to figure out how to look at a chart. and understand moving averages and understanding support and resistance, understanding volume patterns. If you are a commodities trader, even if there's a fundamental reason for something, as commodities traders, you want to go with something that is trending and going parabolic and has liquidity, and that's really where Bitcoin comes into place.
当然，我们今天这个节目最终的目的还是介绍一些知识，同时也帮助有兴趣的投资人呢来考量一下自己是不是在这个时候对这样的一个交易工具进行参与，因为这个交易工具必定还是通过美国证监会的批准，而且呢还是有一定的监管的。您适不适合投资呢？
I would encourage some level of price history to be established before you just sort of jump in. And I like to use coin when that came out, COIN, as a perfect example. It got met with all the enthusiasm that we saw today with BITO, but it then immediately went down and took a while, a few months, to establish this base at 200, and then once it broke through a key support, you didn't miss anything. You were still able to get in now with some price history and a risk, and now as we're talking, Jackie, it's trading at around 300. So there's always going to be money to be made. So what I would say to people is don't get into FOMO, fear of missing out, because that opportunity presents all the time. As a futures trader, I can tell you that things come back, things correct, there's another product, there's another thing to do, and just really make sure you have some modicum of understanding before you get involved. With that said, be excited because you can now get involved and feel a lot more comfortable about it.
比特币今天是应声水涨船高，但我们知道数码货币这个市场是相当的庞大，比特币现在就像是一个祖师爷一样。那随后还有很多其他的各种小的货币出台。那么小的数码货币虽然没有比特币那么德高望重，但是它们却有很多的实用的这个价值。它们会解决一些这个数码货币市场当中和区块链当中以及很多的去中心金融系统当中的一些实际的问题。这些小的货币实际上还是也蛮有意思，而且也蛮有意义，在整个的金融区块链以及数码货币的市场当中，应该也很有发展空间。以上就是今天的内容，谢谢您的收看，我们下次再见。